Enjoy our spine-chilling stories as you sleep, commute, or relax. If you're new, hit subscribe and share with friends and family. Let us know in the comments how we can improve. Our stories are best experienced with headphones on. Now, let's dive into today's tale.
Warning: the following stories contain elements of horror that explore themes of the supernatural, possession, psychological terror, and gruesome transformations. They are intended for mature audiences and may not be suitable for those sensitive to graphic imagery or themes of death, entrapment, and eternal damnation. Listener discretion is advised. The Faceless Shadow. The old house creaked like a ship at sea, its wooden bones groaning under the weight of memories and shadows. 8-year-old Maya leaned against the wall, eyes darting to the half-open door as she listened to the unsettling sounds echoing through the dimly lit hallway. "Leo, do you hear that?" Leo, 6, with tousled hair and wide eyes, nodded, clutching his blanket tighter. "It sounds like someone's walking around." "Maybe it's Jerry," Maya whispered, a nervous giggle escaping her lips. Their mother had always joked about her imaginary boyfriend haunting the house. "He's probably just looking for snacks, or trying to scare us." Leo's voice trembled, but a grin crept onto his face. "You think he likes peanut butter?" Maya giggled again, but it was short-lived. Suddenly, a shadow flitted past the door frame, and her laughter froze in her throat. "Did you see that?" "I did. It looked like Mom," Leo whispered fiercely, his eyes wide with disbelief. They tiptoed to the doorway, peering into the dim hallway. "Mom, is that you?" Maya called, her voice barely above a whisper. No answer, just silence, thick and heavy. "Let's check under your bed," Leo suggested, though his voice quivered. Together, they crouched down, their hearts echoing in the quiet. All they found was a pile of wrinkled clothes. "Mom!" Maya shouted again, but only the house replied with a haunting creak. Maya felt goosebumps prickling her skin. "Maybe it's just the house being weird again," she said, forcing a smile to reassure Leo. "You know how it is." "Yeah, but it doesn't feel like that," Leo said, his voice barely above a whisper. "It feels different." Just then, a loud thump resonated from the living room below, making both children jump. "What was that?" Maya's heart raced. "I don't know." Leo's eyes were wide, scanning the darkness. "Should we go check?" Maya hesitated, fear curling in her stomach. What if it's Jerry? Or something worse? The thought of a ghostly figure lurking in the shadows sent shivers down her spine. "Let's just stay here." "Okay," Leo said, though he looked unconvinced. They returned to the bed, huddling under the blanket, the fabric offering little comfort against the oppressive atmosphere of the house. Minutes felt like hours as they listened to the house settle, the creaks and groans a constant reminder of their isolation. Finally, Maya broke the silence. "Do you think Mom knows about Jerry?" Leo furrowed his brow, considering. "She always acts like it's funny, but what if she's scared too?" Maya shrugged, biting her lip. "Maybe we should ask her in the morning." "Yeah, but what if she gets mad?" "Trust me, she won't get mad," Maya said, feeling a surge of confidence. "She'll just laugh and tell us not to worry." Eventually, exhaustion took over, and they managed to drift off, dreams haunted by shadows and whispers. When morning light filtered into their room, Maya awoke to find Leo still asleep, his small body curled up against the wall. She slipped out of bed and padded to the kitchen, the house feeling eerily quiet. "Mom, she called, glancing around the empty space. The air was thick, and the lingering chill from the night before still hung in the corners. "Down here," her mother's voice floated up from the living room. Maya made her way downstairs, rubbing the sleep from her eyes. She found her mother sitting on the couch, a mug of steaming coffee cradled in her hands. "Morning, sweetheart. You're up early." "Did you hear anything weird last night?" Maya asked, her voice tentative. Her mother chuckled, a warm sound that eased some of Maya's apprehension. "You mean the creaking? It's just the house settling. It happens all the time." "But Leo and I saw—" "Jerry," her mother teased, raising an eyebrow. "He's just a joke, honey. You know that." Maya frowned, feeling a mix of disappointment and unease. "Yeah, but it felt real." Her mother's expression softened. "Sometimes our imaginations can play tricks on us, especially in the dark. Just remember, there's nothing to be afraid of." Maya nodded, though the unease still lingered. "Okay." After breakfast, Leo joined them, his hair sticking up in all directions. "What are we talking about?" "Just how silly it is to be scared of shadows," their mother said, ruffling Leo's hair. "Not silly," Maya murmured, though she kept her thoughts to herself. The day passed slowly, filled with games and laughter, but the unease of the previous night lingered like a shadow over them. That evening, as they settled in for the night, Maya couldn't shake the feeling that something was still lurking just beyond their sight. "Let's sleep with the light on," Leo suggested, his voice small. "Yeah, that sounds good," Maya agreed, her heart racing at the thought of another long night in the dark. They switched on the lamp, bathing the room in a warm glow that pushed the shadows to the corners. As they lay in bed, Maya's mind wandered back to the strange figure. "Do you think it was really Mom?" she whispered. Leo shrugged. "I don't know. It looked like her, but it was different." "Maybe it was just a trick of the light," Maya said, trying to convince herself. "Or something else," Leo added, his voice barely a whisper. Maya shushed him, feeling a chill creep up her spine. "Don't say that." Just then, a loud crash echoed from downstairs, shaking the walls. "What was that?" Maya gasped, sitting up. "I don't know." Leo's eyes were wide, filled with terror. "Should we check?" Maya hesitated, her heart pounding. "I don't want to," she admitted, gripping the blanket tightly. "Me neither," Leo said, but the fear in his voice was palpable. They sat in silence, listening intently. The house felt alive, every creak and groan amplifying their anxiety. Finally, they heard footsteps, slow and deliberate, coming from the hallway below. "Mom," Maya called, her voice trembling. No response. Just the sound of footsteps growing louder, approaching the stairs. "Leo, we need to hide," Maya whispered urgently, pulling him down to the floor. They crawled under the bed, hearts racing. The footsteps continued, heavy and measured. Maya peered through the gap in the bed skirt, holding her breath as a shadow moved past the door. "Maya." The voice was soft, almost a whisper, but it didn't sound like their mother. "Who is that?" Leo whispered, clutching Maya's arm. "I don't know," she replied, her voice steadying as fear coursed through her. "Just stay quiet." The shadow lingered outside their door, and Maya could feel the chill of its presence. It was too still, too quiet. Then, with a sudden movement, it slipped through the door, disappearing into the room. Maya's heart raced as she strained to hear what was happening. The air was thick with tension, and the world outside their hiding place felt miles away. Suddenly, the figure let out a low, echoing laugh, sending chills down Maya's spine. "Maya, Leo, come out and play." Maya's breath caught in her throat. It wasn't their mother. "Please," Leo whimpered, his small body trembling beside her. "Maya, don't move," she whispered, pressing her back against the wall. The figure moved closer, and Maya could see it more clearly now. A dark silhouette that bore an unsettling resemblance to their mother, but with a faceless void where her features should have been. "I know you're in there," it said, its voice a twisted version of their mother's. "I just want to have some fun." Terror gripped Maya as she felt the urge to scream, but she held her breath, staying silent, hoping it would go away. "Maya, Leo," it called again, the voice growing more insistent. "You shouldn't be afraid. I'm here to take care of you." "No!" Maya cried out, her words bursting forth before she could stop them. "Leave us alone." The figure paused, and for a moment the room fell silent. The air grew still, thick with tension. Then, suddenly, it lunged for the bed. "Run!" Maya shouted, grabbing Leo's hand as they bolted from their hiding place. They dashed for the door, hearts pounding in their chests, and burst into the hallway. They raced down the stairs, the floorboards creaking ominously beneath their feet. As they reached the bottom, they skidded to a halt. "Maya! Leo!" Their mother's voice rang out, filled with concern. "Mom!" they shouted in unison, relief flooding them as they spotted her standing in the living room. Confusion etched on her face. "What's wrong?" she asked, her eyes darting between them. "There's something in our room," Maya gasped, breathless. "It looks like you, but it's not you." Her mother's expression shifted from confusion to alarm. "What do you mean? Show me." Without hesitation, they grabbed her hand, dragging her back up the stairs. Maya's heart raced as she glanced over her shoulder, half expecting the shadow to be right behind them. They burst into the room, but it was empty. No sign of the dark figure, just the faint glow of the lamp casting long shadows on the walls. "See?" Maya said, her voice shaky. "It was right here." Her mother knelt down, inspecting the space beneath the bed. "There's nothing here, kids. Are you sure you weren't just dreaming?" "No, we saw it," Leo insisted, his voice rising. "It was just like you, Mom, but its face was gone." Their mother looked at them, concern etched in her brow. "I believe you, but maybe it's just a trick of the mind. You know this old house has a way of making things seem scarier than they are." "But Mom, it laughed," Maya cried, her eyes wide with fear. "It wanted to play." At that, their mother's expression shifted. "Play?" she repeated, her voice low as she glanced around the room. "What do you mean?" "It called us," Maya said, trembling. "It sounded like you, but—" "Okay, let's all just sit down for a moment," their mother said, guiding them to the bed. "You're both tired. The shadows can play tricks on us. Let's talk about it calmly." Maya and Leo exchanged worried glances, but they sat down, their bodies still shaking. "What if it comes back?" Leo whispered, his voice trembling. "It won't," their mother said firmly. "I'll stay with you. We'll turn on all the lights, and I'll check the house." Maya nodded, feeling a flicker of hope. "Can we just sleep with you?" she asked, her voice small. "Of course," their mother replied, wrapping her arms around them. "You're safe with me." As the night wore on, they huddled together, the warmth of their mother's presence a welcome comfort against the lingering dread. The house settled around them, the creaks and groans now a familiar lullaby. Eventually, they drifted into a restless sleep, dreams filled with shadows and flickering lights. In the morning, the sunlight spilled through the windows, casting bright beams across the room. Maya stirred awake to find Leo still curled up beside her, the night's terror fading with the dawn. "Mom?" she called, sitting up. Her mother appeared in the doorway, a warm smile on her face. "Good morning. How did you sleep?" "Better," Maya replied, though the memory of the shadow still clung to her. "Good. How about some breakfast?" her mother suggested, ushering them out of bed. As they made their way downstairs, Maya felt a sense of normalcy returning. The laughter and chatter of breakfast filled the air, and the shadows of the night began to fade. But as they sat together, enjoying the warmth of the morning light, Maya couldn't shake the feeling that the house still held its secrets. Days turned into weeks, and while the strange occurrences lessened, the memory of that shadowy figure lingered in the back of Maya's mind. One evening, while cleaning up after dinner, she overheard her mother on the phone, her voice low and worried. "I just don't know how to explain it to them," she said. "It's like the house is alive, and I'm afraid of what it might do." Maya's heart sank. What did her mother mean? Later that night, as she lay in bed, the walls seemed to whisper secrets. She glanced at Leo, fast asleep, oblivious to the creeping unease that had returned. "Maya, come play." The voice echoed in her mind, and fear gripped her heart once more. The following morning, she gathered her courage and approached her mother. "Can you tell us what happened in the house?" Her mother paused, surprised. "What do you mean?" "About the shadow on," Maya said, her voice steady. "You seemed scared last night." Her mother sighed, glancing towards the window. "It's just an old house with a lot of history, Maya. Sometimes the past seems to linger." "But what if it comes back?" Maya pressed, feeling a lump in her throat. "Maya, we're safe," her mother reassured her. "I promise." But as the days went by, the feeling of safety began to fray. The whispers returned, and the shadows grew longer in the evenings. One night, as the wind howled outside, Maya lay wide awake, staring at the ceiling. She could hear it again, that familiar voice. "Maya, come play." With a surge of courage, she slipped out of bed and tiptoed to Leo's side, shaking him awake. "Leo, get up." "What is it?" he mumbled, rubbing his eyes. "I heard it again," she said urgently. "It's back." Leo's eyes widened in fear. "What do we do?" "We have to tell Mom," Maya whispered, pulling him from the bed. They crept down the hallway, but as they reached their mother's room, they froze. The door was ajar, and dim light spilled into the hallway. "Maya, Leo," the voice echoed softly, and Maya's heart raced. "Mom?" she called, stepping into the room. Her mother was sitting on the edge of the bed, staring into the darkness. "What's wrong, Mom?" Maya asked, her voice trembling. "It's just the house," her mother whispered, her eyes distant. "It's been restless." "Restless?" Leo echoed, fear creeping into his voice. "Yes." Their mother nodded slowly, as if trying to make sense of her thoughts. "Sometimes it feels like it's alive, like it has its own intentions." Maya felt a chill run down her spine. "What do you mean?" "The shadows seem to whisper, to beckon," her mother said softly. "I think it's trying to communicate, but I don't know how." Maya's heart sank. "What if it's trying to take us?" "No," her mother said sharply, shaking her head. "It's not like that. It's complicated." "But it laughed," Leo said, his voice barely above a whisper. "It wanted to play." Their mother's eyes darkened, and for a moment the warmth faded from her expression. "We need to be careful," she said, her voice steady. We can't let it get to us. What do we do? Maya asked, feeling the weight of the shadows pressing in. We face it together, her mother replied, determination rising in her voice. We don't let fear control us. With newfound resolve, they decided to confront the shadows. That night, they gathered candles and placed them around the room, the flickering flames casting dancing shadows on the walls. If it's going to come, let it come, Maya said, her voice steady. We're not afraid. As the night wore on, they waited, hearts racing, but the shadows remained still. Maya, come play. The voice echoed in the darkness, a haunting melody that sent shivers down her spine. It's just the house, she reminded herself, gripping Leo's hand tightly. Maya. Leo. The voice beckoned again, closer this time. Mom, they shouted, their voices rising in unison. Their mother rushed into the room, her face pale. What's happening? We can hear it, Maya cried, her heart pounding. It's trying to get us. Maya, listen to me, her mother said urgently. We have to stay strong. We won't let it take control. Just then, the shadows shifted, a dark figure emerging from the corner of the room. Maya. Leo. It was closer now, the voice echoing through the air, wrapping around them like a cold embrace. Leave us alone, Maya shouted, her voice filled with defiance. The figure paused, and for a moment, the air grew still. Then it lunged forward, and the room erupted into chaos. Maya, her mother shouted, pulling them close as the darkness swirled around them. With a surge of courage, Maya pushed back against the shadows. You don't scare us. The figure hesitated, flickering in the candlelight as if uncertain. Go away, Leo shouted, his small voice rising above the chaos. The shadows writhed, but slowly began to recede, the figure dissolving into the darkness. As the last remnants of the shadow faded, a heavy silence fell over the room. We did it, Maya whispered, breathless. Her mother pulled them close, relief flooding her expression. Yes, we did. But as they huddled together, the shadows still lingered in the corners of the room, a reminder of the night's terror. Though they had faced their fears, the house remained a mystery, a place where shadows danced and whispered secrets. In the days that followed, they learned to coexist with the echoes of the past, the memories of the house. And while the laughter of the shadow had faded, the bond between them grew stronger, forged in the fires of fear and defiance. Together, they faced the darkness, knowing that as long as they stood united, the shadows would never take them. The house remained their home, a creaky, old structure filled with secrets, but also with love and laughter. And as night fell each evening, they lit their candles, letting the light shine against the darkness, ready to face whatever came their way. Maya, do you think Jerry's still watching? Leo asked one night, a grin on his face. Maya laughed, the sound ringing through the air. Maybe, but he's got to play by our rules now. And with that, they settled into their beds, the flickering flames casting a warm glow around them, safe in the knowledge that together they could face any shadow that dared to approach.
If you're new, hit subscribe and share with